Welcome to Live Interactive English. Hello everyone, I'm Mike.
And I'm Sam.
And we're back, Sam, with part 2 of Apollo and Daphne, and I'm so ready for this.
Yes,
It's
I want to know what happens.
It's an ancient soap opera.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those dramas you might see on TV, you know, and people are in love with each other, but they hate each other, and it's not really them because, well, they're Greek gods.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you know, Greek mythology is really like the original like Korean drama.
It is kind of, you're
right.
right.
So if you like Korean dramas, you go read these. They have equally the same amount of I love them and they love them and they love them and this person died and I'm gonna fight you.
Exactly
It's got
right.
a same amount.
And the good thing is also for the writers of these stories, anything can happen. Right? You can shoot people with golden arrows and they can fall in love. You can shoot people with lead arrows. They can hate another person. You can be a tiny, tiny flying little baby, but also be really good with a bow and arrow.
And a god.
And a god, which I don't think happens in the real world. Although imagine Olympic archery. If it was little babies doing it, wouldn't that be cute? That
would be very cute, but I think everybody around would have to wear armor.
I wouldn't go and watch it live, but I think on TV it would be the most popular sport. Don't let babies use bows and arrows, okay? It's just, unless your baby is a Greek god, then it's okay. But yes, so we had Apollo and we had Eros. Apollo was very proud. Eros was very good with with archery, with a bow and arrow. This made Apollo mad and he made fun of Eros. So Eros whipped out a magic arrow made of gold and shot it at Apollo, and what happened?
Well, he fell in love with Daphne because he's like, oh, now I have this feeling of so in love that I just can't even stand it. I have to go and find her wherever she is. But unfortunately, Eros also shot Daphne with an arrow, but a lead arrow.
Exactly.
And Daphne hates Apollo.
There you go.
So again, Greek mythology, it can't just be like, I'm mad at you that you said that. I don't like that. It has to be like, I'm gonna think of the most creative way to make you pay for making fun of me.
Exactly.
So I was slighted and now you are going to fall in love with somebody who hates you.
You laughed at me, now I'm gonna mess up your whole life. And some other people's lives too, because you know, I'm a god, I'm Greek, and all right, so that's all that we have so far, but it's a pretty good setup for part 2. So let's get to part 2 and find out what happens. With the stage set for tragedy, Apollo sought the object of his heart's desire. He approached Daphne, hoping to express his feelings for her. As the god of music and poetry, he thought himself irresistible and expected his silver tongue to work its magic. So, when Daphne took one look at him and set off running, it was a surprise. Daphne ran and ran, but Apollo chased her. Despite begging for the nymph to stop and listen, nothing Apollo said made any difference. Much to his confusion, Daphne ran like her life depended on it. Okay, so Eros has set up his plan. Apollo loves Daphne. Daphne hates Apollo, but they are going to come together and it won't be good. So let's find out what happens.
Yes, and so our article says, with the stage set for tragedy, meaning, okay, we've already set this all up and it's not going to end well.
No.
Apollo sought the object of his heart's desires. So if you're looking for your heart's desire or the object of your heart's desire, you're looking for the thing that you want the most. So he desires to be with Daphne, but again, this is gonna be a tragedy, so it's probably not gonna work because we have this word tragedy, and tragedy just means something that is very, very terrible, something that takes place that causes harm, or maybe people die, or anything like that could be a tragedy. We also use it to describe several stories or plays. If that play is centered around sad things, then that play would be a tragedy. We would label it as like Romeo and Juliet is supposed to be a tragedy because they both die in the, spoiler alert, they both die in the end. So it's a tragedy.
That's true, they do.
So we have this word tragedy here. And our example sentence says, many people died due to the earthquake. It was such a tragedy. So a bad event that caused harm or people to die or made anybody sad, this kind of thing can be a tragedy.
It could be something big like a disaster, or it could be something very small and personal like, you know, two people get married and then a year later one of them dies of cancer or something. Oh, what a tragedy, what a sad thing for those people. It's just sad, right? There's nothing good in this. It's just really sad and unlucky. So this is a terrible thing that's about to happen. What happens? Well, that's Apollo, approached Daphne, my love, hoping to express his feelings for her. Remember, he is crazy in love with this girl. As the god of music and poetry, hey, he thought himself irresistible and expected his silver tongue to work its magic. Well, okay, so he's still very proud of himself, clearly. So he is the god of poetry and music, which is good. He can sing and say love poems and stuff. So he thought himself, he thinks that he is irresistible. I'm amazing. Any girl would be lucky to be with me. And he's got a silver tongue that will work its magic. When we say someone has a silver tongue, we mean they're really good with words. If you have a silver tongue, maybe being a salesman, salesperson, or a politician, or a lawyer, or something like that. You're good with words. You're good with using your words to get people to agree with you or do what you want. And it might help to make you feel or even be irresistible. If something is irresistible, you can't resist it. You can't fight against it. It is so wonderful and powerful and desirable. You've got to have it. So it could be a person you love or something you really want. It could also be the smell of cookies when you're really hungry. Oh, you made cookies? Can I have one? And then you end up eating 6 of them or something. Oh, I can't fight it. They're irresistible. So he should make this, he should close this deal quickly and get Daphne to go on a date like that.
Yes, he's probably used to never having to work so hard and having them already be in love with him. So, as our article says, when Daphne took one look at him and set off running, it was a surprise.
Yeah.
I would say for him that would be quite surprising.
Yeah, she did not want to be even close to him. Never mind go on a date or fall in love with him. No way. Daphne ran and ran. Leave me alone, leave me alone. But Apollo chased her. I love you, I love you. This would be actually quite funny to see. Yes. Despite begging, please, despite begging for the nymph to stop and listen, nothing Apollo said made any difference. His silver tongue turned to lead or plastic or something not silver, and she wouldn't even stop and listen to his love poems or songs or anything like that. She's just saying, leave me alone. Yeah, and as you could imagine, for Apollo, this is very strange. Yeah. He's never really had this happen before. Apollo. So it says, much to his confusion, Daphne ran like her life depended on it. So she's running as if her life is going to be over if she gets caught. So she really feels she has to just keep running and running and running and running. She's not being chased by a lover, but chased by a hungry lion. Yes. So very strange. And so this caused a lot of confusion for Apollo, and confusion is just the noun form of the verb confuse. If you are confused, you're not sure what's happening, you're a little bit lost on what, you're not following the train of thought, you don't know what's going on. And so for Apollo, he is confused. Why is she running away from me? I didn't do anything yet. I'm just trying to talk to her. And I'm so handsome and wonderful. Yeah, and we have this example sentence as, much to my confusion, the bus schedule changed again. So I didn't know it changed. I'm here at the wrong time. I'm confused. Maybe they changed it last week. And then they changed it again this week. That would definitely lead to confusion, or the feeling you would say, I am confused, right? This is confusing, and the feeling you have is confusion. All right, with all of that, let's take a break, and then we'll be back.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们在第一天的故事读到 ，Eros 对 Apollo 射了一支金箭，让他爱上 Daphne。又对 Daphne 射了一支铅箭，让他讨厌 Apollo。那看来这注定是一场悲剧了。Apollo 在接近 Daphne 想要表达自己对她的情感时，他自认魅力无法挡，也预期自己的好口才可以发挥魔力，让 Daphne 爱上他。可是 Daphne 看了他一眼就拔腿奔跑，这让 Apollo 感到很惊讶。 Daphne 不停地跑 ，Apollo 不停地追。那无论 Apollo 说什么都没有任何作用。让他非常困惑的是 ，Daphne 她死命地跑，仿佛被抓到她就死定了。好，单字 tragedy 就表示悲剧、不幸。Confusion 表示困惑、疑惑，是个名词。我们文中用到 much to somebody's confusion 就可以表达令某人大为困惑的是怎么样。那补充它的相关词性 confusing 则是形容令人困惑的。这边2个重点，我们进入文法时间。我们来看第一个重点是 with 加受词加受词补语。那这个句型是用来表示附带状况或是说明原因。受词补语可以用到分词、形容词或者是介系词片语。我们用分词当受词补语的话，就是看这个受词跟补语关系是主动的话，用现在分词 VING； 被动关系就是用过去分词 PP。我们看2个例句。She couldn't concentrate with the kids running around. 孩子们跑来跑去，她没办法专心。孩子们会主动跑嘛，所以这边用到 running. With little money left, he turned to his parents for help. 由于身上的钱所剩无几，他向父母寻求协助。那么钱是被剩下的，所以我们用 left. 再看到第2个重点是 one's life depends on something. 字面意思是某人的命就靠某事了，这是用来夸张的表示某事生死交关，或者是做某事急迫的程度高到像在拼命在赌命一样。例如 He gulped down water like his life depended on it. 他像判了命似的大口大口喝水。那补充一下 gulp down 加名词就可以表达狼吞虎咽的吃什么东西，大口的吃喝之类的。好，那我们直接滑课文中。
Eventually, the nymph began to tire, and Apollo got closer. Knowing Apollo would soon seize her, Daphne shouted out for her father, the river god.
Father, destroy my beauty so I can have peace.
Just as Apollo touched her skin, Daphne began to transform. Her hair became leaves, her arms branches, and her legs roots. Soon she was a laurel tree. Heartbroken and unwilling to accept defeat, Apollo took several branches from the tree and turned them into a wreath. This he wore from that moment on. He couldn't have the woman he loved, but by wearing the wreath, he would always be close to her. All right, we are back, and there is Daphne, and she's running away in disgust because she really doesn't like Apollo, but he's chasing her filled with love and a bit of confusion because he's so handsome and he's so in love. Why won't this girl stop and talk to him and go on a date? Well, after running, eventually the nymph began to tire and Apollo got closer. All right, so yes, this probably happens after some time, and we know that because of this word eventually. This is a good way of kind of jumping through time in your story. You don't have to talk about all the things that happened. Maybe they were very similar and just a lot of time went by. So that's why we say eventually, all right? So it's basically saying a lot of time went by and then, or eventually, we were able to finish planning our trip to Hong Kong. So maybe we're going to plan it and then, I don't know, COVID-19 or a storm or we got too busy or something. But then after some time, our trip did get planned. So, but time did definitely pass. So finally she's tired. She slows down. She's like, oh, I'm too tired. Please just stop chasing me.
Yes. And she is very, again, we have to always remember that she is filled with disgust.
That's true.
Like the worst thing in the world would be for Apollo to catch her.
Yeah.
So it says, knowing Apollo would soon seize her, Daphne shouted out for her father, the river god.
Ooh.
Father, destroy my beauty so I can have peace.
Wow.
Okay, so
wow.
Clearly, again, like that's the worst thing for Apollo to catch her. She's willing to have her beauty destroyed or to give up her life or anything like that. She's like, nothing, I will take anything over Apollo catching me or seizing me. So we have this verb seize, and so that is to catch or grab, in this case, against that person's wishes. Like we're grabbing this when they don't want to be grabbed. We also see this word a lot when people are taking objects away from somebody else. For example, like the police, if you are carrying something illegal, they might seize that object or that thing from you. So you hear about seizures as far as the police taking weapons or taking things that are illegal away from people. Although in this case, again, it's just she was going to get caught and grabbed by Apollo. Like in our example sentence, the man seized me by the arm, so I pushed him away. He tried to grab me. I pushed him away.
Right, as you of course would. And that's exactly why Daphne doesn't want to be seized by this guy. She doesn't like him at all in any way. And so, just as Apollo touched her skin as he began to seize her, Daphne began to transform. Her body starts to change. Remember, she asked her father, the river god, to take her beauty away so that Apollo wouldn't love her anymore. So how did she transform?
Well, her hair became leaves, her arms branches, and her legs roots.
She went wood.
Yes, soon she was a laurel tree.
Well, that's one way to, make a little twist on your dating life.
Yeah.
Turn into a tree, and then all those guys won't be asking you on dates. But maybe the handsome trees will be now. Oh, brother. Anyway, heartbroken and unwilling to accept defeat, Apollo took several branches, from the tree and turned them into a wreath. Okay, so I guess at this point, Apollo realized that his dream of, a life of love with Daphne, that wouldn't happen. He had to accept defeat. Okay, so when you accept defeat, well, you accept losing, because that's what defeat is. We can use it as both a noun and a verb. If your team suffers a defeat, it means your team lost the game, okay? Maybe just one game, and then you can have a victory, which would be the opposite of a defeat. You can win, but defeat is a loss, and to defeat someone is to beat that person, okay? So the other team defeat your team had a defeat. You lost. You want to win, you don't want to lose. For example, even after defeat, the baseball team didn't lose hope. So they were still hopeful that the next game, they wouldn't have a defeat, they would have a victory or a win.
Yes, and so Apollo took some branches and leaves from that tree and kind of built it into a little wreath. So sometimes you'll see a wreath hanging on a door, especially around Christmas time. It's basically branches and sticks and leaves and maybe some flowers and things like that in a circular shape with a hole in the middle. And so for this type of wreath that he made, he's going to probably wear it on his head or maybe around his neck, but I think usually they wear it on their head.
Yeah, often kind of like a crown.
Yes.
A crown made of branches and leaves.
Yes, and so it says this, meaning this wreath, he wore from that moment on. He couldn't have the woman he loved, but by wearing the wreath, he would always be close to her. Whether she likes it or not.
Yeah, that's kind of sweet, but also kind of weird. But it's true. Often when you see paintings and sculptures of Apollo, he is wearing a laurel wreath. And they used to give a laurel wreath, I believe, to winners in the Olympics, in the old ancient Olympics. So yes, many Greeks and Romans you will see wearing a laurel wreath, and apparently that comes from Apollo's unsuccessful dating life.
Yes.
Who would have thought? So what do you think, guys? We have a what do you think question. Why do you think Eros made Daphne feel disgust when she saw Apollo?
Well, if we look at this, I would say, I think the main reason Eros did this was because he felt insulted by Apollo, so he wanted to get some revenge or get back at him by making his life chaos.
I would absolutely agree with that, yes. Eros felt insulted, or he felt slighted, which is also like being insulted, which is why I think he was, you're right, seeking revenge. He was trying to break Apollo's heart, and he kind of did. He was kind of successful. So, always respect the tiny little love baby who's really good at archery. I think that's a good lesson that we can all take away from this Greek myth. So.
Definitely one of those ones that everybody should remember.
Absolutely. Even though they're more than 2,000 years old, there's always good lessons in Greek myths. And if not, they're crazy and entertaining. So do try to check some out sometime. Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
刚刚说 Daphne 不停地跑 ，Apollo 不停地追，那最后 Daphne 累了，她意识到 Apollo 越来越接近，很快就会抓住她，于是呢，她向父亲河神呼救，请他毁掉自己的美貌，可以得到安宁。那就在 Apollo 碰到她的皮肤时， Daphne 就开始变形了，变成了一棵月桂树。Apollo 心都碎了，可是他不愿意接受挫败，于是就从这个树上呢摘下几根枝条，把它们做成了花环，也就是做成了桂冠。那从那一刻起 ，Apollo 就一直带着它。好，单字 eventually 这个副词就表示最后、最终。Seize 它有抓住啊、夺取的意思，它的名词是在后面去 e 加 ure，seizure 表示夺取、占领的意思。那么 defeat 当名词表示失败、挫败，当动词可以表达战胜、击败。Sam 老师最后聊到说 ，Eros 对 Apollo 的报复呢，让他的生活陷入了混乱。老师用到 chaos，chaos 这个名词就有混乱的意思。好，那么以上今天的讲解，同学们别走开，马上回来哦。
With the stage set for tragedy, Apollo sought the object of his heart's desire. He approached Daphne, hoping to express his feelings for her. As the god of music and poetry, he thought himself irresistible and expected his silver tongue to work its magic. So, when Daphne took one look at him and set off running, it was a surprise. Daphne ran and ran, but Apollo chased her. Despite begging for the nymph to stop and listen, nothing Apollo said made any difference. Much to his confusion, Daphne ran like her life depended on it. Eventually, the nymph began to tire, and Apollo got closer. Knowing Apollo would soon seize her, Daphne shouted out for her father, the river god.
Father, destroy my beauty so I can have peace.
Just as Apollo touched her skin, Daphne began to transform. Her hair became leaves, her arms branches, and her legs roots. Soon she was a laurel tree. Heartbroken and unwilling to accept defeat, Apollo took several branches from the tree and turned them into a wreath. This he wore from that moment on. He couldn't have the woman he loved, but by wearing the wreath, he would always be close to her.
Here's how to play. The host will be holding 3 cards. Each card will have 2 sentences containing a secret vocabulary word or phrase that has been replaced by the word bear. The host will read the sentences out loud for the contestants to guess. Whoever guesses first gets a point. The person with the most points wins. And you can play along too.
Hey, we're here playing Guess the Bear. I'm Josh.
I'm Matt.
I'm Kiki.
Ooh, so you guys excited?
Yes.
Fired up?
I'm ready.
Yep, ready and rearing to go. The first cab off the ranks is an adjective, 1 word. We stayed at a fancy hotel with bear dining. The antique store is known for its bear china.
Fine.
Ooh. I don't even know. That was just too equal. I'm gonna do the math and split it down the middle and go half a point each. How does that sound? The adjective, 1 word. We stayed at a fancy hotel with fine dining. The antique store is known for its fine china. Okay, next one is another noun, 1 word. The holiday season is the only time Tim sees some of his bears. Aunt May is my favorite bear.
Relative.
Oh, let's split another point. How about that? 1 each. Okay, now 1 word. The holiday season is the only time Tim sees some of his relatives. Aunt May is my favorite relative. Okay. Final one. Phrase. 2 words. Dad is bear Ned because he wants him to do well. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't be so bear yourself.
Hard on.
That's right. So the phrase, 2 words, Dad is hard on Ned because he wants him to do well. Everyone makes mistakes. Don't be so hard on yourself. Mate, sometimes it's very difficult though, but hey, so you got 2 points there and you got 1 point.
Just one.
Yeah, that's okay. So Kiki, you're the winner today, so don't be too hard on yourself, mate.